Let's get real. Airport security isn't just about keeping passengers safe. Behind the polished glass walls and high-tech X-ray machines lies a web of hidden rules, cryptic codes, and vague policies that most travelers never notice. Ever seen a security officer scribble something on your boarding pass? Or watch someone get pulled aside for a so-called random check? The truth is, much of this isn't random at all. And here's the darker twist. Some of those very officers, the ones entrusted with guarding millions of flights, have been caught stealing from passengers. Security footage from Miami International Airport once revealed agents pocketing cash, electronics, even jewelry right under the cameras. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But here's the real question. How much power does the TSA actually have? Many passengers assume that security officers act like airport police, able to detain, command, or enforce anything they say.
All right,
in reality, the limits are far narrower. TSA agents can check your ticket, scan your bags, and direct you through the line. But that's about it. They cannot force you to unlock your phone, hand over your laptop password, or toss your passport into a screening bin. Most importantly, TSA agents cannot arrest you. If they suspect something serious, they have to call in airport police. So the next time you feel pressured at a checkpoint, remember, a lot of what sounds like an order is really just a request. From an economic perspective, this reveals something deeper. TSA isn't a full-fledged law enforcement body, but rather a semi-civilian system run like a service contract. And this structure gives rise to a subtle strategy, using psychological pressure to keep passengers compliant. The stress of being watched, the tension of the line, the constant reminders of authority, all these discourage pushback. That manufactured anxiety helps keep crowds moving, reducing bottlenecks and protecting airport revenue streams tied to passenger flow. Aviation analysts point out that in the post-COVID era, with airlines and airports under immense financial strain, tightened security has served a dual purpose. Yes, it screens for threats, but it also shapes passenger behavior. By forcing travelers to arrive earlier, security creates longer dwell times, pushing people to spend more on food, retail, and duty-free shopping. In other words, the security checkpoint is not just a shield. It's part of the airport's commercial engine, which leaves us with a bigger question. If TSA's authority is in fact so limited, where exactly is the line between genuine safety and the exploitation of passenger ignorance? Are we really walking through those scanners for protection or for the financial gain of a billion-dollar industry? Let's clear something up. TSA pat-downs are not meant to be painful. No matter what you've heard, agents are not allowed to use force that causes physical harm. If you have a medical condition, sensitive areas, or chronic pain, you have the right to inform them and request a gentler approach. Yet stories of passengers being pushed beyond their limits are common. In one case, a woman warned an agent that pressing too hard on her lower abdomen could trigger extreme pain. Before the officer could adjust, her male supervisor cut in sharply. She'll use the pressure she needs to. The traveler didn't back down. Her response was firm. No, she won't. She is not allowed to injure me. The supervisor fell silent. The screening continued, lightly and without incident. This small exchange highlights a larger issue. Too many passengers don't know their rights. Reports from outlets like the New York Times have documented cases of travelers who felt humiliated, harassed, or mistreated by overzealous agents. While most TSA staff follow protocol, the agency has faced repeated allegations of misconduct, from unnecessary invasiveness to outright abuse of power. And once an incident occurs, passengers often feel powerless, trapped between missing a flight and enduring questionable treatment. From an industry standpoint, this is a dangerous balancing act. Airlines and airports depend on passenger trust to maintain smooth operations. If travelers begin to view checkpoints as hostile or degrading, it erodes confidence in the entire system. Yet paradoxically, the fear of conflict often works in TSA's favor. Few passengers challenge authority when running late for a flight, making compliance more likely. Behavioral economists note this as a form of time pressure psychology, where the urgency of catching a plane makes travelers accept conditions they would normally resist. Globally, this tension has sparked debate. In Europe, for example, the EU has pushed for passenger dignity standards, emphasizing that security should never cross into intimidation.
Just give me a minute.
Post-pandemic, as airlines fight to rebuild loyalty, U.S. airports face increasing pressure to reform. The question isn't just about safety checks. It's about the image of the travel industry itself. If screenings feel more like punishment than protection, passengers may choose airlines or routes with friendlier reputations, directly impacting revenue streams. In short, TSA's mandate is clear. They are not allowed to hurt you. But the gray zone between strict enforcement and outright misconduct remains a flashpoint.
Good morning, madam.
One that reflects both the psychology of power and the
Here
economic stakes behind every passenger who steps into that line. Think TSA is only worried about what's in your bag? Think again. Their eyes aren't just on your belongings, they're on you. Through a program called SPOT, Screening of Passengers by Observation Techniques, agents are trained to analyze body language for signs of suspicious behavior. On paper, it sounds logical. In practice, it often flags perfectly innocent travelers. Avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, sweating a little too much, or even looking nervous can land you in secondary screening. But let's be honest, who isn't nervous when walking through a security line? Even seasoned travelers admit to feeling a rush of anxiety at that moment. It gets stranger. Emotional distress itself can be enough to draw suspicion. There was the case of a young woman leaving Greece, visibly upset after parting ways with her partner.
Keep an eye out for anything
No
suspicious.
alarms went off, no contraband was found, yet she was pulled aside for questioning. Why? To TSA, her emotional state signaled possible trafficking or drug smuggling.
Sarah.
She was eventually cleared, but the message was clear. Your emotions are data points. This reliance on subjective cues has drawn sharp criticism from psychologists and civil rights advocates. Human behavior is complex, shaped by culture, personality, and context. Sweating doesn't always mean deception. It can mean fear of missing a flight. Yet airports double down on these methods, not just for security, but for risk management. By overscreening outliers, they reduce liability in case something goes wrong. If a nervous passenger later caused an incident, TSA could claim they at least tried. It's less about certainty and more about covering institutional risk. From a global perspective, such behavioral profiling is part of a larger trend in security economics, shifting responsibility from airlines to individuals. The traveler becomes both a potential threat and a data source. In a post-COVID world where digital surveillance has expanded, airports are blending biometric systems, AI-driven risk scores, and observation training into one unified strategy. The result? A system where every sigh, glance, or tear can carry financial and legal implications. So the next time you feel that knot in your stomach at the checkpoint, remember, it's not just in your head. That anxiety could literally be putting you under the spotlight. Ever notice strange marks on your boarding pass after it's scanned? Most of the time, it's just an agent's initials. But if you ever see the 4 letters SSS, brace yourself. You've just been flagged for extra screening. That simple code can mean a full-body pat-down, a deep inspection of your bags, and a longer wait before boarding. And the unsettling part? You won't even know you've been selected until it happens. You could be strolling toward the gate, ticket in hand, when suddenly security pulls you aside. To the average traveler, this feels arbitrary, almost like a lottery no one wants to win. But behind the scenes, there's a deeper system at play. Airlines and security agencies share passenger data long before you step into the terminal. Travel patterns, ticket purchases, even one-way flights paid in cash can raise red flags. The random mark on your boarding pass is often the result of predictive algorithms designed to spot anomalies. In other words, your behavior as a consumer, how you book, when you travel, how often you fly, can directly determine your treatment at the checkpoint. Industry analysts note that such processes are not only about safety, but also about profiling risk with commercial efficiency in mind. Screening more thoroughly costs time and money. By using codes like SSS, the system funnels resources into passengers deemed statistically abnormal. The paradox? Those flagged are often not dangerous at all, just outside the mainstream travel profile. Globally, other airports have adopted similar strategies, though some, like in Singapore and Dubai, combine them with customer experience initiatives to reduce friction. In contrast, the US model often feels punitive, with passengers left confused and powerless.
Your belt and shoes,
For
please.
airlines, the fallout can be double-edged. While tighter checks reduce liability, they also risk alienating customers who feel unfairly targeted. So next time you glance at your boarding pass, pay close attention. That small scribble could mean the difference between breezing onto your flight or becoming a case study in the hidden algorithms that quietly govern air travel. Now here's where things get even more personal. Imagine cracking a joke in the security line and paying for it on every flight that follows. One traveler did exactly that. When a woman carrying a cat was asked to remove it from the carrier, he quipped, "What are you going to do? Give it a CAT scan?" The line laughed, but TSA didn't. For the next 3 flights, he was mysteriously pulled aside for random checks. Coincidence? Maybe, but it highlights a reality. TSA agents wield subtle ways of making life harder for those who get under their skin. It doesn't stop there. Former insiders have revealed the use of secret codes and hand signals between agents. These aren't about security threats. They're often about passengers themselves. Whether an agent finds someone attractive, annoying, or simply a problem, coded gestures can communicate it instantly. To the traveler, it feels like paranoia. In reality, those whispers and exchange glances may not be about your bag at all. They might be about you. The unprofessional side of TSA culture became undeniable in 2019 when a secret Facebook group of nearly 18,000 agents was exposed. Inside, members mocked passengers, made racist jokes, and even joked about violence against travelers. Disturbingly, most of those involved kept their jobs. For an agency tasked with public trust, the scandal painted a troubling picture.
I do not
When
understand.
the line between security and mockery blurs, passengers become not just customers, but targets of ridicule. From an aviation business perspective, this erodes the brand of air travel itself. Airlines spend billions building loyalty programs, luxury lounges, and customer care campaigns. Yet one sour encounter at a checkpoint, being humiliated, targeted, or mocked, can undo that investment in minutes.
One of our strengths.
Post-pandemic, when airlines are desperate to win back hesitant travelers,
Welcome to a world
the
of
optics
seamless
of an
and secure
abusive or
travel.
cynical security culture are more damaging than ever.
Open your bag.
The lesson is sharp. While airports are temples of efficiency and commerce, the human element at security can tilt the experience from seamless to scarring. And unlike a delayed flight or lost bag, humiliation at the checkpoint lingers far longer in a passenger's memory. Here's a fact that once shocked the traveling public. Until 2010, TSA body scanners didn't just detect hidden objects. They produced full, naked images of passengers. Every contour of the body was visible to the agents monitoring the screens. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Civil rights groups, privacy advocates, and ordinary travelers condemned the practice as a violation of dignity.
Look at this.
Lawsuits followed, and headlines
ridiculous.
around the world questioned how an agency tasked with protection had crossed so far into invasion. Under public pressure, TSA was forced to abandon the original machines and switch to software that only shows a generic outline, highlighting areas that require inspection. The scandal serves as a case study in how security technology often evolves not from foresight, but from outrage. Airports and agencies tend to adopt new tools in the name of safety, only to test their limits on unsuspecting passengers. It's only when the public pushes back through media exposure, political lobbying, or outright refusal that reforms are made. And make no mistake, the body scanner controversy wasn't just about privacy, it was about trust. Travelers began asking, if this was allowed, what else could be happening behind closed doors? Economically, the episode highlights the constant tension between innovation and accountability. Security firms profit enormously from contracts with the government, selling expensive new scanning systems that promise higher detection rates. Airports install them to project an image of cutting-edge safety. But when the technology crosses ethical lines, the backlash threatens not only TSA's reputation, but also the commercial credibility of the airports themselves. In a competitive global market, where hubs like Singapore, Doha, and Dubai invest heavily in creating passenger-friendly reputations, being known as the airport that strips your dignity is costly branding. In the post-COVID travel environment, the lesson looms larger than ever. With biometric boarding, facial recognition, and AI-driven surveillance rolling out worldwide, The balance between security and privacy is again on trial. If the body scanner scandal taught us anything, it's that public tolerance has limits. Cross them, and the very passengers airlines depend on may rebel, not just against TSA, but against the entire travel ecosystem that profits from their compliance. Ever had something disappear from your bag after passing through security? Don't expect TSA to take responsibility. Officially, they allow passengers to file claims for damaged or lost property. But the process is notoriously slow, opaque, and often ends in rejection. Travelers report that compensation, when offered, is far below the actual value of the missing items. Even when evidence is clear, the burden of proof rests heavily on the passenger. And yet, theft by TSA agents has been repeatedly documented. At Miami International Airport, security footage captured officers rifling through bags and pocketing cash. CNN and NBC have reported multiple cases across major hubs like Orlando, JFK, and Los Angeles, where employees were fired for stealing electronics, watches, and jewelry. For an agency built on trust, these scandals cut deep. The unsettling reality is that passengers aren't just guarding against external threats. They may also be vulnerable to those tasked with protecting them. Even when TSA-approved locks remain intact, travelers have reported valuables missing with no inspection notice left behind. That raises an unsettling question. Who else has access to your luggage once it leaves your sight? For many, the illusion of safety ends the moment their bag disappears behind the conveyor belt. From an economic lens, these failures carry ripple effects. Airports and airlines depend on passenger confidence to keep traffic flowing. If travelers begin to perceive checkpoints as both invasive and unsafe, it undermines not just TSA, but the financial ecosystem of air travel. Global competitors understand this. In Japan, for example, airports emphasize meticulous handling of baggage as part of their national reputation. In contrast, the US system's dismissive, not our problem stance risks alienating high-value passengers, especially business travelers who expect reliability and respect. Behavioral economists also note how TSA's refusal to accept liability is part of a risk-shifting strategy. By making claims difficult, they discourage passengers from pursuing compensation. This reduces payout costs, but at the expense of trust. In a post-pandemic recovery era, where every flyer counts, the industry can't afford to appear indifferent. One particularly telling case involved a traveler whose iPad was crushed in a scanner. TSA's first offer? A laughable $19.99. It took 2 years of persistence before full reimbursement was issued, only after witnesses corroborated the damage. Stories like this don't just frustrate individuals, they fuel a collective narrative that air travel, already stressful, is also exploitative. And in an age where social media amplifies every grievance, the reputational risk is enormous. Think your checked bag is safe once it disappears behind the conveyor belt? Think again. Take a look at it. Every piece of checked luggage in the U.S. is screened, and roughly 5% are physically open for inspection.
That there are
TSA can cut locks, tear off plastic wrapping, and dig through contents without notice. By policy, they're supposed to leave a slip inside if they open your bag. But countless travelers have found valuables missing and no note left behind. That raises an unsettling possibility. If not TSA, then who had access to your belongings? Theft isn't the only risk. With so many bags moving quickly through conveyor systems, damage is almost inevitable. Broken zippers, cracked shells, and shattered souvenirs often greet passengers at baggage claim. And the real frustration comes afterward. Filing a claim is cumbersome. Payouts are rare, and most travelers give up. The underlying message is clear. Once you hand over your bag, responsibility shifts away from the system and onto you. From a strategic standpoint, this creates a perverse incentive for airports. By externalizing risk, they cut costs while continuing to process massive volumes of luggage efficiently. For airlines, baggage mishandling isn't just an operational issue, it's a brand liability. Studies show that passengers who experience baggage loss are less likely to remain loyal, regardless of mileage programs or discounts. Globally, the contrast is stark.
We have discovered
in hubs like Hong Kong and
Seoul,
security combines rigorous checks with customer-centric communication, ensuring passengers feel reassured rather than dismissed. In the US, the adversarial tone, "Don't pack valuables, it's on you if something happens," has become normalized. But in an era where premium travelers expect seamless journeys, this attitude risks driving high-spend customers toward competitor airports and carriers. For individual travelers, experts recommend treating checked luggage as expendable. Never pack valuables, document your bag's condition with photos, and keep essentials in your carry-on. Behavioral strategies like staggering bins at security or packing pocket items into a single pouch can also reduce the risk of theft in the chaos of screening lines. At its core, baggage safety is more than a logistical issue. It's about passenger confidence. If travelers believe their possessions are unsafe, it undermines trust not only in TSA, but in the air travel industry as a whole. And trust once lost is far harder to recover than a misplaced suitcase. Just when you think you've cleared security, the airport finds another way to reach into your wallet: baggage fees. What once was included in the price of a ticket has become a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream for airlines. In 2022 alone, U.S. carriers collected over $6.7 billion from checked bag fees. And it doesn't stop there. Oversized carry-on? Pay up. Need to gate check because bins are full? That too can trigger hidden charges. The strategy is deliberate. Airlines advertise low base fares to appear competitive on search engines, then claw back profit through ancillary revenue. Baggage fees are a cornerstone of this model. By unbundling services once considered standard, carriers can manipulate price perception while still maximizing yield per passenger. Behavioral economists call it drip pricing, the psychological tactic of revealing costs gradually, banking on the traveler's sunk commitment to the trip. Once you've booked a ticket, you're far less likely to back out when faced with extra fees. But the manipulation goes deeper. Ever had your carry-on measured at the gate, only to find the sizing bin mysteriously smaller than the airline's stated dimensions? Industry insiders admit that some bins are intentionally undersized, nudging passengers into paying to check bags. These micro-strategies turn stress points, like boarding, into profit opportunities. From a global market perspective, baggage fees are a double-edged sword. On one hand, they've become essential to airline survival, especially in the post-COVID recovery era, when demand is unpredictable and margins razor-thin. On the other hand, excessive fees damage brand loyalty. European carriers like Ryanair have embraced hyper-aggressive fee structures, while Asian competitors like Singapore Airlines and ANA emphasize inclusivity, betting that premium customer experience will win long-term loyalty. For U.S. carriers, the gamble is clear. Squeeze revenue from every seat today, or risk losing high-value travelers tomorrow. And airports play along. The longer passengers spend negotiating bag rules at check-in counters or gates, the more time they spend inside terminals, where food, retail, and duty-free shopping deliver yet another stream of income. So the next time you feel that flash of panic at the gate as your bag is tested in the sizing frame, remember, it's not just about space in the overhead bin, it's about strategy. Your luggage is not only cargo, it's currency in a finely tuned system of profit extraction. Here's a truth few passengers realize. Once a TSA officer survives their 2-year probation period, firing them becomes nearly impossible. Complaints of rudeness or unprofessional behavior often vanish into bureaucracy, rarely leading to consequences. Unless an agent commits a serious crime, they remain shielded by layers of job protection. For frustrated travelers, this explains why some officers behave with an air of untouchable authority, because in many ways they are. From a labor perspective, this isn't unique. Unions and federal protections were designed to prevent arbitrary firings and provide stability. But in a customer-facing role as sensitive as airport security, it creates a dangerous imbalance. Passengers have little recourse, while officers operate with minimal fear of accountability. This dynamic feeds the perception of TSA as less a service for passengers and more a self-preserving institution. Then there are the rules themselves, some logical, others baffling. No one disputes the need to block weapons or explosives, but policies like confiscating nail clippers, forcing passengers to discard full-size shampoo bottles while allowing the same liquid in smaller containers, or demanding random pat-downs without clear cause, feel arbitrary at best, performative at worst. Each small inconvenience, while defensible on paper, chips away at traveler goodwill. Strategically, this environment reflects a broader
liability.
cost-benefit trade-off. By standardizing overly strict rules, TSA reduces liability in the rare event of a failure. If an item slips through, they can argue, we applied the same rule to everyone, but the economic cost is hidden. Cumulative frustration discourages discretionary travel, particularly among high-value customers who expect efficiency
Zurich
and
Airport,
dignity.
at your service.
Airports spend billions upgrading terminals with luxury lounges and retail options, only to watch those efforts undermined by an abrasive checkpoint experience. Globally, competitors are seizing on this gap. Airports in Doha, Seoul, and Zurich market themselves not just as safe, but as pleasant. They streamline processes, adopt advanced scanning tech to reduce pat-downs, and train staff in hospitality as much as in security. The US, by contrast, clings to a rigid model that prioritizes procedural uniformity over passenger satisfaction. The irony is clear. An agency created to reassure travelers after 9/11 often does the opposite today.
This is taking forever.
Instead of inspiring confidence, it reinforces the idea that air travel is a gauntlet of indignities. And in an era when global competition for passengers is fierce, that perception isn't just bad optics, it's bad business. After everything we've uncovered, it might seem like TSA exists only to frustrate travelers. Yet the truth is more complex. Most agents are simply doing their jobs, bound by rules they didn't create. And sometimes the agency even shows a lighter side. TSA's official Instagram account has gone viral for showcasing bizarre items passengers tried to sneak through. Nunchucks, machetes, even a frozen turkey, paired with dad joke captions that almost make travelers laugh through the hassle. It's a reminder that behind the uniforms are ordinary people, many of whom don't enjoy enforcing tedious or unpopular rules.
This is ridiculous.
Still, the larger system remains deeply flawed. From invasive pat-downs to hidden fees, from lost luggage to secret codes, the air travel experience has become less about safety and more about control. Passengers are caught in a psychological maze, pressured to arrive early, funneled through stressful checkpoints, and nudged into spending more once inside terminals. Every policy, every inconvenience carries an economic dimension. Airports and airlines don't just transport people, they monetize their behavior. The pandemic only intensified this. With revenues gutted, carriers leaned harder into ancillary charges, while airports embrace security as a tool not just for safety, but for prolonging dwell time, boosting retail margins. Global competitors, meanwhile, are reframing the equation. In places like Singapore and Dubai, investment in seamless, customer-friendly security is seen not as a cost, but as a competitive advantage, an incentive for travelers to choose their hubs over others. For US air travel, the stakes couldn't be higher. Passenger trust is the currency of the industry. Lose it, and no amount of luxury lounges or frequent flyer perks can buy it back. The future of aviation will be defined not just by how safe the skies are, but by how humane the journey feels on the ground. So next time you empty your pockets into a plastic bin or glance nervously at a scribble on your boarding pass, remember, you're not just passing through a security checkpoint, you're moving through the front lines of a global industry that blends safety, commerce, and psychology into one carefully engineered experience. Whether that balance tilts toward protection or exploitation, that's the debate that will shape the future of flying.